Good afternoon. I'm Bernie Zimmerman. I'm the chair of the Nevada County Historical Landmarks Commission, which was created by the Board of Supervisors in 1969 to help promote and preserve Nevada County history. And one of the ways we do this is conduct interviews of people who are involved contemporaneously in making Nevada County history. We're doing this at the Lyman Gilmore School. They have a program run by Scott Mills, and our production crew today, our producer is Dahlia, and these are all students. And the cameras are being run by Milo and Aiden, and Jesus is controlling the sound. So thank you all for contributing, and when the editing is done, the final video will be publicly available. You can see it on our YouTube channel. You can access it from our website, nevadacountylandmarks.com, and the final version will be placed with the Searles Library, so it'll be available to the broader public. So with that introduction, today I'll be interviewing Paul Emery, a key figure in the contemporary Nevada County music scene. If you live in Nevada County and you enjoy his music, you probably know who Paul Emery is. And if you don't know, you're about to find out. So, Paul, let's start with some basics. Where were you born?
I was born in Bakersfield, California, and which would give me great credentials if country western was my genre. But according to my parents, we only lived there for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
It was in 1944 when I was born, and my dad was in the Army Air Corps, and he was stationed there for training. And then mostly up until I was in first grade, I lived in Yolo County. My grandparents were Greek, and they had a farm, a truck farm in the Capay Valley, which is nowadays a very famous organic food valley. And that's the first place I remember living there with my parents until the first grade. And first and second grade, my dad then was in the reserves, and he was called back into duty during the Korean War. And from there on out, we lived the military family life, which is 2 and 3 year assignments. You don't know where you're going to go.
You're around, I'm guessing, much of the world.
Yeah, very unusual. We went to Newfoundland. We were stationed in Newfoundland after we left California. And
That's
then,
quite a shift in weather.
Well, yeah. And then we did 2 years there, and then we got transferred to Oklahoma. And I'm one of the few people, I think, in history that ever migrated from Newfoundland to Oklahoma. It's just no logical reason people would ever do that. And then we went to England, and then we went to Washington State, Tacoma, Washington, and then eventually I was old enough and was on my own. So that's my physical history.
And you wound up in Sacramento at some point.
Yeah, see, Sacramento was where my parents started. That's where they were when my dad was activated in the military as a reservist in '52. So we ended up back there. And when I got off on my own, I lived in Fair Oaks. That was kind of my home for about 8 years, was in Fair Oaks.
And what got you into music?
Oh my gosh. It was the early '60s, and I really got into enjoying folk music. I was really attracted by music like the Kingston Trio and Peter, Paul, and Mary, and all those, Pete Seeger, all of that. And I got involved in playing guitar, and I got to be pretty good. So I was doing that music, and then I ended up teaching guitar for quite a few years at a music store. And it was a very good time to be a guitar teacher because folk masses were very popular, which means churches have gatherings that people sit around and sing folk music, and they'll have about 15 people singing and all playing guitar at the same time.
Kumbaya.
So, yeah, kumbaya, and hey lighty, 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 and all those things.
Now, at some point, I understand you toured Europe.
Yeah, that was a little bit later on, just in between the time that I was, a teacher. I started performing, and by the mid-'70s, I was really ready to be a full-time performer and not a music teacher. And so by then, I kind of lived on the road for many years, which is ultimately what brought me to Nevada City. But then about 1979, I had a musical partner, and she was a very good singer, and she played guitar too. And we were playing around all different places, and one day we said, let's go to Europe. We said, okay, so we packed up our stuff and went to Europe.
It was you and her? That's it?
Two of us, yeah.
Just the two
that
of
was in '79.
Okay. So we'll go back a little bit. But who was she? You're going to keep
Annie McCann is her name.
Okay.
Annie McCann.
I've
And
seen
she's still my good friend to this day. We still play once in a while together.
So you have a long history of involvement with the Nevada Theater. So maybe you can tell us when you first performed here and how that connection came to be.
Yeah. Well, the very first performance at the Nevada Theater was in 1972. And the situation was, I had a band called the Carmichael Traveling Street Band, which was sort of a vaudeville band, and it was a lot. We did a lot of really old jazz. We did a lot of humor, and we were playing in Sacramento, and a fellow by the name of Alan Rogers liked us because he liked that type of music. He was into that type of music, and he said, "Why don't you guys come up to Nevada City and play?" I go, sure. So, I knew where it was, and I'd been through here before. So he says, you need to talk to Sally Lewis. She is the person who runs the Nevada Theater. I said, okay. So I go up there, and I meet Sally Lewis, and I tell her what we do, and it's a combination of theater and music and satire and all sorts of different things. And she says, okay, I like you. I like what you're doing. She didn't say that to everybody, by the way.
No. She has a reputation.
She did. But she was really good to us, and she really liked us. And she says, okay, I'll rent you the theater for Friday and Saturday night for $100 a night. Okay, that was quite a bit of money in those days. But and then this is what I couldn't talk about for years. She says, and the band can sleep here, just don't tell anybody. So that really did it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that was it. That was our first gig, and I have a poster for that. So let's get it up there.
The Carmichael Caravan.
Yep. Greater Carmichael Traveling Street Band, and this was. Posters were big in those days, as you can see. Mm-hmm. And if you look down here, the admission for the event was $2.
And $2. I see you had some very prominent musicians. Patty Melt was there.
Was our lead singer,
and you had Brother Lee Love.
Brother Lee Love. He was a preacher that preached environmentalism, and the Great Growth here. And that's too difficult and weird to explain how he got that name, so I'll pass on that one. And then Lynn Lythe, who was an electronic tap dancer.
Oh, my.
And she would move around all jerky.
And she would have lights like on her.
Yeah,
I've seen those.
Electronic tap dancer. Those were our featured performers. And then this was the band, the Greater Carmichael Traveling Street Band.
And this fellow here with the beard was?
Me.
Okay.
Back in the days I had the ball of hair look.
So how did that weekend work out for you?
It was great. It was great.
Did you make back your $100?
We made back our money, and we had a great time. As soon as we finished playing, we'd head over to the Crazy Horse Saloon.
Ah, yes.
And that was the place back then, just like it is today.
It is true.
Just like it is today.
Yeah.
And that introduced me to Nevada City. So we did about 3 concerts after that at various times. And then the way that I ended up kind of moving up here was more like about 1975, 76. I was ready for a change. And I was going to live in my van with me and my dog, and we were going to travel all around and play music. And this is as far as I got in those days. And so then I moved up here in 76, really 76.
Okay. So you came up here a little, by the time you got up here, Sally Lewis and others had already saved the theater.
Yes.
You weren't involved in those efforts.
No, I wasn't, but I was there at the, you know, the story goes, it was a movie theater. It was, okay, the basic story of the Nevada Theater was, it was built in 1865, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it became, Mark Twain performed at that theater several times, and it was a theater for many, many years. Then in the late teens, early 20s, it became a movie theater, which was very common for it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a movie theater until the mid 60s, and my dates may not be 100% right, but and then it was actually owned by a movie, you know, a movie.
I think it was the Cedar Cinema, if I remember,
Something
like
something
that.
like it. And then it closed down.
Mhm.
At a certain point, it closed down, and the movie theaters went elsewhere. And it was closed for quite a while. And then some local people, Sally Lewis being pretty much acknowledged as being the leader of the crowd, so to speak, says we got to restore this theater and make it part of the cultural scene of Nevada City. And so that was in the late 60s, 68, 69, something like that. And that's how it came into being.
There was also some talk about demolishing it even, because it had
There
run
was.
down.
Yeah.
But you said Sally Lewis and others saved it. Did you know that she was from Bakersfield?
I didn't know that.
And did she know that you were born in Bakersfield?
I don't think so.
See, if
I wouldn't have had any reason to tell her.
you might have gotten it for less than $100.
No kidding. Well, that's okay. That's something new.
All right, so you came up to Nevada City, and did you continue to perform at the theater?
Oh yeah, I would do shows up there back in those days, maybe 1 a year, maybe 2 a year, because really from 1979 on until the mid 90s, really, I was pretty much a touring musician. I was pretty much on the road a great deal of the time.
With the same Carmichael caravan, or
No.
what were you doing then?
It was small. It was usually a duo with or Annie McCann and I. We went to Europe 2 times and played, and then I played 2 other times with other people. So I did four tours of Europe in those days. And
What was touring in Europe like?
well, you know, it was a good time, and I'll explain. Annie was very interested in Irish music, traditional Irish music. So the first stop we made was Ireland after we flew into London, and we could just go. And we were really good. We could just go to a bar or restaurant and say, "Can we play some music for you this afternoon?" And we'll just play for tips. And if you don't like it, just tell us, and we'll move on. And so they did, and we were always really good. And we were playing at a pub in the west coast of Ireland in County Clare, and there were these 4 guys sitting at a table. We were only in Ireland for about 2 weeks at that time. They were sitting at a table talking business, and then they started kind of jabbing each other, pointing a finger towards us. Listen to this, listen to this, listen to this. So we took a break, and they said, "Can we talk to you for a minute?" I go, "Sure." Come to find out, they were the producers of the Lisdoonvarna Folk Festival,
Oh my God.
which was the biggest folk festival in Ireland. And they said, "Would you like to be an opening act at our folk festival?" So that's a great example of being at the right place at the right time.
Speaking of being at the right place, I understand that you also performed once for the Queen of England.
I did. Yeah,
And what was that like?
Well,
Did you have to curtsy or kneel or any of that stuff?
No, it was that was in 1983, and Duke Majan was the governor, and we ended up playing for a wedding for one of his higher up staff people, and when they found out the Queen of England was coming, they brought on the quartet from the Sacramento Symphony. And they kind of wanted something a little different, a little jazzier. So we were kind of known, and they hired us to play. And that's how it happened. So that's how we played for the Queen of England. And we were given instructions by the Secret Service and all these people about what we could do and what we couldn't do. And we were told, do not touch the Queen. You don't go patty on the back. You don't do anything like that. You don't touch her. Do not touch the Queen. The second thing we were told is also don't play any Irish music. Well, they must have checked our background and found out that we'd spent time in Ireland. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
well, because in those days you had the
yeah.
times of troubles and everything else that
Oh,
was
it
going
was,
on.
yeah, it was pretty rough. And they, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, they, they just walked by. We were in the second floor. We weren't on the ground floor of the Capitol. They walked by, and we were playing, and we were playing the Ellington tune, Satin Doll. And Queen Bike, and she quickly looked right at me, and guess what happened? I broke a string. And the instant she was looking at me, my G-string went ka-toing. So the power of the Queen, and that was it. And we played that, and that got us a lot of good gigs, like in weddings. And I told people, well, if we're good enough for the Queen of England, we're good enough for your wedding. And they go, okay, we'll hire you. It's just the music business,
Well, so let's get back to Nevada County and tell us about some of the things you've done in Nevada County that you're sort of most proud of.
Yeah. Well, my goodness, I've been here for a long time. It was my home base during those years when I was touring around, and I always came back here, and then in the early '80s, I started a recording studio in Grass Valley called the Bennett Street Studios off of Bennett Street, and I did a lot of recording of local artists, and we put out actual record albums, which that's all there was in those days, was that. And then I just kept the whole thing going for playing music until I guess about 93 or 94, and then it just kind of faded out. That was almost 20 years that I played full time. And at that point in time, I actually got my first job that I ever had in my life. I was program director of KVMR radio for a bunch of years. And this is just making it all real quick. And then I became the artistic director and the station manager of the Center for the Arts for a bunch of years when it was in where it is now, but it was the old Center for the Arts. And then I went back to being news director of KVMR, and then here I am. But all the time I was playing and performing music a lot and producing lots and lots of shows.
So you've produced a lot of things that are going on at the Nevada Theater. So why don't you tell us about some of those?
Yeah. I was in the '00 years. From my time at the Center for the Arts ended in about '08, and then I became an independent producer. I was producing theater at the Nevada Theater, and I did a series of I would just say famous plays that everybody needed to see. Cyrano de Bergerac was one of them we did, and Streetcar Named Desire, of course, that was a classic, and The Tempest, Shakespeare, The Tempest, and also Our Town. And I did a whole bunch of plays like that, and that was a big deal, producing big theater. So I did that for about five or 6 years. in the meantime producing lots and lots of music. And really kind of since then, since let's just say year 2000 till now, I do a series at the theater called Nevada City Live. And what that is I rent the theater for 5 weeks in the fall and for 4 weeks in January and February, 3 weeks January. And I do a whole concert series with, probably about 25 concerts totally with. So it's kind of like, at that point, I had my own Center for the Arts, and I ran it for that amount of time, then closed it down, and didn't do it the next year. So I did hundreds, several hundred shows through the years, and I still do that. That's what I still do.
And do you play in those?
Yeah, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes I put together a really big Leonard Cohen show, tribute to Leonard Cohen. We have 14 musicians in it and 5 singers, and it's a big production. And I play in that, and I'm also the producer of it. And we've been doing that for about 12 years, just once or twice a year. But yeah.
What are some of the acts that you've had perform at the theater?
Oh my goodness. Pretty much everybody that plays locally, Paul Emery, Eleanor McDonald, Peter Wilson is there. I could go on and on with that. I got some shows coming up with Dalrymple McAlpin, who does rock and roll puppetry, wild stuff.
Okay,
and that's,
if you say so.
That's come out. Did a lot of comedy through the years. Lots of quite a few touring acts, Jesse Winchester, Richie Havens. I had Richie Havens here one time. Things like that.
Well, and Nevada City has benefited an awful lot from what you've done.
Yeah.
Having lived here on and off for about 50 years, what are some of the significant changes you've seen in the Nevada City area?
That's a really good question.
Give me a good answer.
Well, one answer is not a whole lot.
That's a good
Okay.
answer.
Now, the scene is the same. The characters are different. I mean, it's obviously okay. Back in the let's just say mid '70s, because that's when I kind of worked my way up here. That was the Renaissance, in my opinion, of Nevada City.
Yes.
And Grass Valley came a little bit later. But it was the Renaissance, because Nevada City was economically very, very depressed in the 60s
Oh, yeah.
and the 70s. It boomed during the Depression, oddly enough. I've been reading that book about
Okay, Gage McKinney's book.
No Depression
No Depression here.
Yeah, it's quite. But then in the 60s and 70s, it really, and Nevada City was largely shut down, and it hadn't discovered tourism yet.
That's where Sally Lewis and her group came in.
Yeah, and now the 70s is when the Nevada Theater became restored. It's when the Miners Foundry, which was the Victorian Museum, American Victorian Museum in those days, that's when that started, and that was an industrial site that was converted into being a performing arts center. That's when KVMR radio started.
Yeah.
KVMR radio started from the American Victorian Museum. That's the K and VMR, K Victorian Museum Radio. And that's when that started. That's when the theater companies started. But that was the Renaissance, was in my opinion. This is my opinion.
No, I agree with you.
And that's also when all the stores and shops in Nevada City, and then later Grass Valley, reopened, and you can give a lot of credit to the hippies in those days that made these into cute little shops, and also the gay community
came
that
up.
was really, really strong. And from there on, Nevada County became more of a cultural center, and it goes on to this day.
I agree with you. We moved up here in the late 70s, and it was precisely because we found a lot of the things you were talking about,
Yeah.
like the Nevada Theater
Yeah.
and the various performance venues, a fairly sophisticated food, and we sealed the deal to move up here at the Crazy Horse Saloon.
Well, that's where, and in those days, of course, marijuana cultivation, which was illegal, was also a big part of our economy. So there was a lot of money around, actually, and it's just it was a great time, and it kind of launched. That was the launching, in my opinion.
Let's end on that uplifting note.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you very much for asking me. Thanks for the school for doing this work.
Okay.